Hey everybody, Brendan here. Welcome back to another King's Indian Attack speedrun video. Let's play against a King's Indian defense player. Yeah? Yep, they are a King's Indian defense player. Cool. And we are going to stick to our systems here. So we can either go c4 or e4. c4 is trying to go for something on this long diagonal, which I think is reasonable, but so is e4. e4 is trying to go for kingside attack. And it depends if they play e5 or not. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Let's go for c4. Gonna play things slow. Knight to c3. This knight on c6. I think they're just going for their normal plans of like e5. They might even go knight e7. Ooh, knight f7 would be very interesting. But I think they're gonna go for like knight e7 here and play the position like that. Yeah. And I'm just gonna keep expanding on this side of the board as per usual. I do want to throw in rook b1 so this knight's not pinned. I think that's extremely helpful. And do I go for e4 or just b4? I think b4. e4, I can just take everything. I can start by taking with the knight, actually. If I'm concerned. But yeah, rook b1 is generally a very useful move in these types of positions, just to prevent any problems there. I could also, again, play e4 at some point, which I don't think is bad. This is kind of like an English now, if anything. Let's play b5. See what they do. So they go knight d4. If I go e3 here, what are they doing? e3, they take and take. And we kind of have like an English of some sort, where we traded off for Fianchetto bishop. We could also try taking here, and then going knight e4. h3 doesn't make too much sense. They can always take here. Doesn't look too bad either, but I would want to be careful. Let's see. So e3 is maybe the more principled move. Takes. Everything takes, and my queen's on f3. Yeah, that doesn't feel so bad. Let's play it. If their knight goes anywhere else, h3 is just really strong. Like knight e6 or knight f5, h3 kind of forces this exchange, and that's not really an exchange they want to make. So they are forced into this, making all these exchanges. Yeah, so after I make this exchange, this feels very promising for me. I will take with the bishop. It doesn't really matter. Either way, I'm just going to be retreating. Next move here. Ooh. Maybe I should play e4, actually. The reason why is because if I play... Oh, no, wait. They can't play e4. I can just take it, right? Take. I kind of like e4. Despite them having the knights in this position, e4 is actually maybe setting up for f4. But it's also setting up for bishop e3. Not really to take, but more so looking at moves like d4, going for a Maroczy structure. Okay. Let's just retreat. Knight d4, just knight e2. Not really sure they want to let me take here on d4. I think that'd be a mistake. I would love to take, because after takes, I can play moves like f4 and get a lot of space in the position. Plus, it kind of permanently blunts their Fianchetto bishop a bit. Yeah, I really like taking. If c takes, cool, I guess. I mean, I'm not really worried either way. F4 feels extremely strong in these positions now, no matter how it's taken. Like here, for example, they don't even want to take on f4 ever, because if they take on f4, then they have weaknesses on d6 and d4. So they're pretty much allowing me to get an attack. And I'm going to be playing g4 next. Okay. King h2? Actually, I should be a little bit careful about that. Let's play... Do I just play immediately f5? f5, the pawn here hangs. If queen g4, knight back, and then I go here, that's also okay. That doesn't look so bad. Queen g4. Because f5 is not really good. Yep, this defends everything perfectly fine. And I'm looking at f5 still. f5 would be nice to get. It's kind of a strange move because I wanted to play g4, but now that their knight's looking at the f4 pawn, it's a little bit less likely to work out well. So that's why queen g4 is fine, because if knight f6 and then we retreat and then they go back or something, then we can look at moves like f5 again, as well as like g4, right? f5? I could also take, but I think f5's stronger. So let's play f5 here. Yeah, and right now we have moves like taking on g6 in the air, which are kind of uncomfortable to deal with. We need to get this bishop into play as well, though. Yeah, so queen to f3. This is fine. If they take, then I'm going to take with the queen. Because they'll just have a horrible structure and be nearly lost, actually, in this position. Just because I can start piling up on the f-file with moves like bishop g5, and either f6 or f7 is just going to be a serious problem. So now g4. And again, whenever they take, I actually just take with the queen. Moves like bishop g5 are definitely in the air. Actually, I want to play queen g3 followed by bishop f3 potentially to go for moves like g5 and f6. If you can imagine f6 and then the bishop going back to h8, if we ever reach an endgame, this bishop's just stuck out of the game for the rest of the game, and we're up a piece pretty much. It's kind of a funny but good way to look at things. So g5 feels pertinent here. If they take on f5, I still wanted to take with the piece, so nothing changes there. And I'm threatening f6. And most importantly, if g5, f6, I can take on g6, which will definitely cause them problems, because then I can follow it up with moves like queen g3. Yeah, so g5 feels really strong. They can go for knight c5, I guess, if that's their plan. But it feels like they're just going to get mated before we have to worry about anything. If ever h6, we go f6 first. Yep. Yeah, let's just go f6. And this is like a counterintuitive move, mainly because it looks like now we might not have an attack, but we do. We're going for h5 here. Then go knight e6 or whatever. The problem is, again, they're playing down a piece right now. Cool. Bishop d2. Knight c3. We might even just take it, right? Again, when you're playing with a bishop on h6, you are playing down a piece. So we actually do have a funny threat tactically, which is bishop h3, queen d8, and then the surprising move bishop e6. Which I don't know if it works after queen d8. It might only work after a move like queen e7. But the idea is, oh, you know what? It might not work there either. So I'll have to calculate it. I think we can just take this pawn and then go bishop b4. And this nearly traps the queen as well, which is good. Bishop h3. Bishop b4, I think, is what they missed, though, here. Yeah, so knight c3. Just going to move out of the way. Rook a1. Defend everything. d6 is still hanging. Now I want to be careful about moves like bishop h3. Because of knight e2 check. But I can play king f2. Or king h2. Yeah, bishop h3 feels good. And we have a really cool idea again. Bishop e6 is on the horizon. And it works here, I believe. Bishop h6 takes f7 check, king f8. No. There's king f8 now. So let me just play h5 and keep going at them. There's absolutely no reason to rush here. Our position is overwhelming, overwhelmingly winning here. There's several ways to win. I like taking, and after h takes, it's hard to defend the h file. I'm just going to play moves like bishop g4, queen h3, king f2, and bringing the other rook over to h1. I can also take the knight on c3, prevent any counterplay with like knight e2, knight f4. If d5, I guess I just take it with the c pawn. I could take it with the e pawn, but then they might play e4, right? So the c pawn probably is the most complete move. Yeah, I think we just take this guy. We're not really worried about that. Yeah, and then rook ac1. And I would love to play rook c7 here. Followed by maybe even rook e7 and bishop e6. This bishop e6 keeps popping up, and I think it works here as well. Let's hope it does. Because they're covering e6. Now they're not covering e6, so it looks like bishop e6 works. And if ever takes, check. Maybe I should just throw this in. Doesn't hurt. I keep looking at this move because it's so enticing. You know, you don't always get to play moves like that. But when you do, you gotta play them. Maybe bishop d7 is a better move. Bishop e6 takes. What about rook h7 there, actually? Because then we're threatening f7 check, and it's even stronger. So bishop e6. Obviously, if rook f8, we just take on d6, I think. And if they ever take, we can just check. So bishop e6, threatening f7, They take it. Rook h7, and the idea is king takes. We give a check. And then here, and then f7, and then we can take here, and then give a check. It's close, but yeah, maybe it's a little unnecessary. Let's just play bishop d7. It's a bit safer. And I'll just play moves like queen h3 next. d6 is actually hanging now, of course. I keep looking for those crazy tactics, but sometimes positions aren't crazy. They're just, you know, lazy. I don't really think that's it, but you know. Yeah, let's go rook c7. They might go queen b6 or something. I'll just go rook c1. Defend everything, and then I'm threatening to play rook c8. This is quite good. Yep. Just rook c1 with check incoming. Not sure if there's anything they can do at this point. Don't think so. I guess they could take on c7, but I mean, we are up an exchange here. Is it an exchange? No, we're up a rook. We are up a rook here. Their bishop on h8 is doing nothing, and we are close to mating at this point. It looks like it's almost forced mate, unless they take on c7. But, you know, that's got to be winning. So queen a6. Yeah, I think we just play rook c8 check. And then queen h3 to finish the day. Just make sure we recapture and don't blunder or something, you know. Yep, so king h7 and then it'd be mate. Yep, looks like we played a pretty good game this time around, which is great. So, yeah, this is like, actually a3 might just be a waste of time now that I'm thinking about it. You know, a better move might be here is rook b1. Because a3 has the idea of preparing b4, but do we need to prepare b4 with a3 or rook b1? Which one's better? And you can tell that rook b1's better because, again, whenever you have these like long diagonal situations, this pops up in Sicilians, like close Sicilians, whenever white fianchettos. Obviously, it pops up in the English, where this rook b1's extremely useful, and it's pretty much entirely just to play rook b1 and b4. Because you want to get this type of structure where you get a pawn on b5, as it kind of helps your bishop gain a little bit of scope. Yeah, so a3, a little bit of waste of time, but that's fine. So rook e8, rook b1, e4 might have been good here, with the idea of getting something like this. Bishop f5 might be playable. There's no discoveries with this knight, unfortunately. Maybe b4 immediately. This pawn looks dangerous to take. Yeah, it is. Knight d2. Ooh, but there's bishop f5. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, this is complicated. Yeah, so rook b8 was kind of like strange to me. It didn't really feel like it was benefiting their position at all. Maybe they were just trying to get off the long diagonal, which does make some sense. It does defend the b pawn, so the bishop can develop, but it kind of just like excuses the fact that I played a3 and wasted time. Now, if they play moves like e4, I think it's just kind of a worse version now. But b5, knight d4, and I actually like not misevaluated, but I misjudged knight d4 as not being too great of a move. Because like I thought I could take it, but funnily enough, after takes, the problem is the e pawn is hanging, and if I play something like knight e4, sure they can maybe take on e4. I'm not really sure if this is like, yeah, actually this looks really good for them too. But they might also just have like d5 here. Do they not? Because if I take, I can't really take on d5 without losing e2. So that's definitely something they could have done. So e3, and yeah, knight e6 was really surprising. Bishop takes f3 has to be played, or knight takes f3. Either move here, it doesn't really matter. It feels like they have to go into this, mainly because, well, it's forcing it, get some pieces off, and kind of like tries to equalize the position. My goal is I'm probably going to be playing e4 and like knight d5 next. That's something that I would really like to play. And yeah, it feels like might still have a little something, but maybe not enough. All right, so yeah, knight e6, h3. Really happy to get that bishop. Yeah, e4. E4 might have... Okay, e4 is actually not great. I should turn on the evaluation too so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But the reason why I guess e4 isn't great is because I was going into a position where I had the bishop pair against two knights, and when you close the position, the knights might be favored a little bit. I was thinking here that might not be the case because I saw this knight e6, knight e6, knight d4, and I saw I could match it with knight e2. But a better idea here is just to keep the position open because, well, we have the bishop pair. We want things to be open. And moves like e4 don't actually help them. The thing is, I was looking at this and d4, and I wasn't really sure if like knight d3 I should ever be worried. I was missing knight takes e4, which is unfortunate, but those things are easy to miss. So, okay, e4, knight e2. Yeah, they shouldn't really have jumped in immediately. Maybe go for something like knight d7. And don't really... Like, you got to keep the tension, I think, here, but... yeah, knight e2, c5, and I was extremely happy to make this exchange because after f4, you never really want to take, it feels. Because when you look at a position like this, like, ooh, yucky. They might have some concrete lines with knight h5, apparently. But even still, like, if I take with the pawn and play something like f5, this still feels pretty good. And the position's likely to open up. Ooh, yeah, that'd be interesting, but position's likely to open up. I can maybe consider something like e5 even. But, you know, ooh, sorry, my microphone. There we go. My bad. It was like kind of raised. I was so focused on the game. Such an interesting game. Yeah, so I was looking at queen f3 and queen g4. I thought queen g4 might be a more interesting try. Looks like it's good. And yeah, after queen c8, they kind of run into some problems. Because after queen c8, f5, I'm getting exactly what I mentioned before of, yeah, I could play moves like queen f3 in the future, or I can just kind of sit too. Like, if I sit in a position like this, I'm always threatening, like, you'd have to calculate if I take on g6, like, almost all the time. You have to calculate what if I go for something like queen f3, g4, trying to gain more space. I do have more space in the first place, and there's no way to take advantage of the fact that pawns are pushed in front of my king. I just have more kingside space. Simple as that. So knight f6 didn't really help matters because now, again, g4, g5 feels like it's on the agenda. They could have considered, I guess, taking now, but I was super duper happy going into this just because, well, this does not look good. To be frank, bishop h5, bishop d2, the other rook to f1, and well, I got a lot of pressure. And if they ever play knight c5, I guess bishop e2, bishop d2, rook f1, we can slowly get over there and then bring the king over maybe to like c2 or d2 or something to defend. But like it just feels like it's one result, or I guess two results. Like maybe they can hold it or we win, but it really feels like we're on the precipice of just winning this game. So queen, rook f8, now g4, and if they ever take, I think I was saying that I'd probably take with the queen in the game, but also taking makes a lot of sense too. Just because we have king h1, rook g1, and it's easier for us to attack than it is for them to defend, and it's not like they can open lines against our king again. Yeah, so maybe that was a misevaluation. G5 felt really good here. Again, if they ever go F6, we can just start ripping things open if we want, I think, with taking on G6. Supposedly H4 is better, just to keep the tension, though. Which makes me wonder... Oh, here, we don't play queen takes. We play E takes. Interesting. And we actually have some funny lines of, like, playing G6, potentially. Which is fascinating. That's really weird. But that it does make a lot of sense, actually, looking at it further. So I went for the strategy of just like, okay, this bishop's useless now on H8. We can play H4, and it's just stuck, like, forever. Yeah, like, unless they can attack H4, but it's just not possible. So anyways, yeah, bishop D2. Apparently gave up a little bit of the advantage, but whatever. And I'm not really sure if there's anything else to cover here. H5 felt important and necessary. And again, this knight, it just, like, we don't need to take it. Like, it's a little, like, visually good, but, like, none of their other pieces are doing anything. So we're not really in a rush to take it. We could. It's just like, well, maybe now A3 becomes a little weaker, and maybe they have the long diagonal, like the dark squares, to take advantage of. So it just makes sense to leave the knight on the board. And of course, since they give it up, this is totally winning. But yeah, I think that's going to cover it for this game. Biggest things to mention are, when you're in the opening here, consider what is actually helping your plans and what isn't. When you're going for these, like, E2, D3, C4, English slash, I guess, King's Indian attack structures, we can still say, because this is the King's Indian attack opening, A3 is a lot less useful than something like Rook to B1, because Rook to B1 gets off the diagonal and prepares B4. So that's just a little, I guess, key tip and something to remember this game by. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with another one. Bye-bye.